what's left of it.
We're going to finish up with Genesis 42 tonight, even though the title on the video is Genesis 43. We do have about Wally, Thelma, and Robin are here. That's good. I really don't want to run a Ethernet cable all the way in here and hang it down from the ceiling or anything. I don't know. And that doesn't even always fix it. So. Okay. Genesis chapter 42. We're going to pick up in verse 29. When they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, "The man, the Lord of the land, spoke harshly with us and took us for spies of the country. But we said to him, 'We are honest men, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no longer alive, and the youngest is with our father today in the land of Canaan.' The man, the Lord of the land, said to us, 'By this I will know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me and take grain for the famine of your households and go. But bring your youngest brother to me, that I may know that you are not spies, but honest men. I will give your brother to you, and you may trade in the land.' Now it came about as they were emptying their sacks that, behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were dismayed. Their father, Jacob, said to them, 'You have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and you would take Benjamin. All these things are against me.' Then Reuben spoke to his father, saying, 'You may put put my 2 sons to death if I do not bring him back to you. But put him in my care, and I will return him to you.' But Jacob said, 'My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If harm should befall him on the journey you are taking, then you will bring my gray hair down to Sheol in sorrow.'" Okay. Any thoughts as we wrap up Genesis 42?
I guess he tells the other 10 where they rank. He makes a big deal about Joseph being gone, and he didn't want to lose the youngest.
He does mention, he's writing Simeon off, so he does mention Simeon. But like we said last week, to a large extent, we can kind of consider the 10 sons, other than Joseph and Benjamin, the other 10 as one character, that they all work together to kind of serve the same role, even though Reuben does make this very, I think, disturbing offer to his father. But it's, yes, there's no doubt that the primary concern is with Joseph, and now he's gone with Benjamin. So Benjamin is the favorite son. Yes, sir.
So I just have a question about that. self-serving offer by Reuben. Is that intended to be a realistic offer? I mean, it doesn't seem like one would want to kill his grandchildren after losing.
Yeah.
To me, that's just compounding things.
Well, it's a pledge, I guess, by Reuben of his most precious commodity, the most precious thing he can put up, knowing that his sons perhaps will die if they don't go back to Egypt and get more grain. He's in a sense isn't really risking anything. If he doesn't go back, they're going to die anyway. But it is, like I said, it's why would you want that in pledge?
It just seems like a hollow offer to me. Would be carried out.
Kind of over the top. I mean, such an extravagant
Yeah.
thing that he couldn't possibly hold water, perhaps. It's kind of a thing that pops up occasionally in the Old Testament, isn't it? Abraham is asked to sacrifice Isaac. Jephthah sacrifices, evidently, his daughter based on a foolish pledge that he makes. And here's a pledge. Nobody is asking Reuben to make this pledge. He makes it. He volunteers himself. But it appears to be of no consolation whatsoever to Jacob, which I guess is one good thing. Jacob almost ignores it and, focuses on his own plight and the suffering he is enduring. Losing his son Joseph, losing Simeon, and the possibility of losing Benjamin is all, he says, it's all against me. And perhaps what we see a little bit in these stories is something I think all people of faith have to guard against, and that is making yourself the center of the universe, and that's whatever is happening, how it impacts you is the most important thing. And that is, to some extent, necessary and understandable. I mean, we have to have self-care, self-regard. If you are to love your neighbor as you love yourself, and you don't love yourself very much, then you're not going to love your neighbor very well. But that's kind of, it puts us, I think religion and narcissism kind of go hand in hand a lot of times. And when you think you are specifically chosen, that God is speaking directly to you, it's really easy to think that how you see the world and what you think about things is all that really matters, because you are the child of God. So you must be the son or daughter in whom he is well pleased. And, all this is happening. Joseph is the son in whom Jacob is well pleased. And ultimately, we see that this is all working together according to God's plans for the good of the family. But in this moment, they can't see that. It's a bigger purpose at work, and ultimately an eternal purpose at work. But they don't see that. They're focusing on their own plight and their own suffering. And so it's not real pretty when we see it. But most of us are guilty of it sometimes, to think, when you see something you're not comfortable with and you imagine, well, if I was in that position, and, you need to do that sometimes to have empathy, or sympathy anyway. But it's not all about you either, is it? So kind of a little bit of a balancing act required. But what's going on here is a big trick, isn't it? A big joke in a way. And Jacob is the guy who likes to pull tricks on people. And he's getting a trick pulled back on him. My take on Jacob sometimes is pretty harsh. I find him to be a member of the family of faith that's particularly hard to love. But in the big scheme of things, I think you could say that he doesn't get away lightly with his defrauding of people. I think the thing with him and Esau, the bowl of porridge for the birthright, you could kind of ultimately, well, that's just brothers, kind of messing with each other. You could kind of get around that. But the intentional deceit of his father, Isaac, to steal what Isaac intended to give to Esau is really hard, I think, to overlook, especially since it included his mother. And maybe that kind of diffuses some of the responsibility to blame. But ultimately, Jacob is not. He is always a sharp dealer. He is always on the lookout to improve his own situation, and in a way he gets away with it, but in a way he doesn't. He pays a pretty heavy price. He loses years with his father, the company of his father and mother, and then damages the relationship with his brother, and now he himself has been tricked. He's been tricked by his sons, the 10, and they're dealing with Joseph, and now Joseph is tricking him. Now Joseph is playing a prank on him. Again, this is they go buy grain, but they get back and there's all their money. There's the grain and all their money. It's like when you, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but you go grocery shopping and you start putting your groceries in your car and you realize that maybe there's an item in there that you didn't pay for. Maybe it didn't get scanned. Maybe it's in the cart. You never put it up there. And now you're all the way out to your car and you've got it. Do I go back and scan it again and, pay again and all that? My evaluation would probably be, how much is it worth? Is it worth, I probably get ripped off at the store sometimes, and is this all kind of a little bit of an offset? But someone else may say, I would not take it without paying for it no matter what. And that's a fine way of looking at it too. But to see that item that you didn't pay for and you intended to pay for, now what do you do? And then this is a bigger scheme because they've got to go back to Egypt. They know immediately, this isn't going to get us through the famine. This is one trip. Plus, we've got Simeon down there. If nothing else, we got to go back to get Simeon. We got to spring him, get him out of the joint. So the return is inevitable, and now you see that the turn that maybe unintentionally you have really muddied the waters where you were to begin with. And so if you were scared the first time going down there, now you're really going to be scared. And on top of that, you have to take Benjamin. You got to take Dad's prized little show pony. He's got to go down there.
Where doesn't Jacob go?
Why does a man who has teenage boys not mow his own lawn?
Well, I understand that, but in this particular case, if the thing is that Benjamin has got to go. If this is going to be, and I wouldn't want Benjamin out of my sight, then I would go and I would make myself responsible for Benjamin's safety.
Well, first of all, he's an old man, so I don't know exactly what he's supposed to do about any dangers that would oppose. But the story is creating this tension, and the tension is that both men, two men, want the company of the same man. They both want the company of Benjamin. One is a starving father, in a sense. He's got money, but he got no food. Can't eat your money. I guess you can if it's paper money. Maybe that's, but coins, it probably wouldn't do you much good. Get some minerals out of that, I guess. But you get fiber out of the paper money. But he's wanting, the pool is to keep Benjamin here, and Joseph has created a pool to bring him into Egypt. And so in the context of the story, this is the tension of the story. This is the dilemma that must be somehow resolved. It's like when you watch a romantic movie and these two people are supposed to fall in love and get married, and you know they're going to, but they meet and they're crazy about each other, but then something comes up and they can't be together immediately, and even in some, it's a tragedy, and like Romeo and Juliet, they never get to be together or whatever. If everything goes along smoothly, if everything works exactly the way you want it, you don't have much of a story, do you? Nobody will ever, when you're at work, tell you, well, I got up right exactly when I wanted to. I felt great when I woke up, fully rested, had a nice breakfast, got in my car, drove to work, did not have to stop for a single light or a sign, and had no traffic whatsoever, got a great parking spot, walked right into my office, and everything was wonderful. Nobody tells that story, do they? First of all, nothing is going to happen that well to begin with, but that's no story, is it?
It is a story. Somebody's telling the story.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear it. You don't even think to share that. I mean, that's not going to hold anybody's interest. What holds people's interest is I woke up hungover or with a bad headache or whatever, from a wild night before that I don't even remember doing. And my wife burned a toast, and I complained about it, and she said, well, next time make your own toast. And there was no hot water left when I took a shower. And the wife started the dishwasher while I was in the shower. There was no even cold pressure, So. And I got in the car and I missed every light, and I was stopped all the time, and traffic was everywhere. And I get there and there's no parking. I had to park in the auxiliary parking lot, walk half a mile. That's the story you're going to hear about, isn't it? What I have overcome to show up 10 minutes late for work. That's the story you want to tell. And forget my comment about being hungover. People of faith are never hungover, so don't be hungover. Noah was at least one morning, I think. He woke up and I got hungover. But that's the story. There's got to be something resisting the plot moving forward. The plot can't just everything happily goes forward all the while. There's got to be something drawing it back. And in the context of the story, you have this tension between Jacob and Joseph, both wanting the presence of Benjamin. Joseph knows that Jacob now is alive. And so he has, again, all of the advantages in this relationship. He has all of the advantages. He was the disadvantage. He was the favored, but then as being favored, suffered as a result of that. And now he has all the advantages towards him. And Jacob is being walked through this difficult procedure, even though we know ultimately it's going to have a happy ending. It's like the movie Old Yeller. I mean, it has a happy ending, doesn't it? It does, because there's a pup, young Yeller is running around at the end, but you can't leave it with just Old Yeller laying there dead, and you got to have some young Yeller's got to be running around. So it's I can't imagine the first audience seeing Old Yeller when they shoot the dog. That had to just be, that's a Disney movie. They shoot dogs in Disney movies. But this is storytelling, and you have to tell a story, and you have to have these elements in the story that create suspense, tension. It can't all just happen smoothly. There has to be some resistance to the plot moving forward. Okay. Let's pick up in chapter 43 now. That took a lot longer than it should have based on my rambling. So we'll do what we can in chapter 43. Verses 1 through 10. Now the famine was severe in the land, so it came about when they had finished eating the grain which they had brought from Egypt that their father said to them, "Go back, buy us a little food." Judah spoke to him, however, saying, "The man solemnly warned us, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you do not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you will not see my face unless your brother is with you. Then Israel said, why did you treat me so badly by telling the man whether you still had another brother? But they said, the man questioned particularly about us and our relatives, saying, is your father still alive? Have you another brother? So we answered his questions. Could we possibly know that he would say, bring your brother down? And Judah said to his father Israel, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die. But we as well as you and our little ones. I myself will be surety for him. You may hold me responsible for him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame before you forever. For if we had not delayed, surely by now we could have returned twice. Okay. What do we think about that? Sherry says hello.
Jacob's still on the problem, why did you bring this trouble on me? You know, instead of fussing about that, it's almost like he's saying, the ten brothers are just people, and then he's got two sons.
Mm-hmm.
It almost sounds like that, and he kind of treats them that way, or it seems like it. Anyways.
Well, the sons of all, Reuben in particular has kind of soured his father's view of him by having adultery with one of Jacob's concubines. But Judah has, in a sense, bears a little more responsibility. It was his idea to sell Joseph to the Ephraimites, cutting short Reuben's plan of returning him to the father, returning him to Joseph to Jacob. And then, of course, right after that, in our compilation and the way we have the book, we have the story of Judah and Tamar, and Judah doesn't come out looking too great in that story either. Whether his father knew about it or not, it doesn't really matter. The readers knew about it. And so, these sons, like I said, they are kind of a block. And where they do distinguish themselves, it's not usually to the good. Simeon has done it, Levi has done it, Reuben has done it, Judah has done it. They've all kind of made a mess at some point within their personal lives. And the way it reflects on Jacob. So we don't have the failings of every son, but we do have those sons who are kind of the most prominent ones of the 10. They've all kind of, made mistakes and brought reproach upon their father in one way or another. And Judah doesn't pledge his sons, but he does pledge himself, and he basically says, you can blame me for whatever happens. And I think really what's going on here is we see, even when we don't know it, when we're resisting the will of God, what God wants to happen, that it causes pain and it causes suffering. And how much of that do we see in the world today? How much of the suffering in the world today is caused by someone not yielding to the will of God? Even if they don't understand it, even if they don't know that's what they're doing. By not doing what God wants them to do, pain enters into the equation. It's hard. They're hungry. That's painful. And Jacob is just racked with fear. And fear can be very painful too. He's so afraid of losing Benjamin. The brothers were not willing to accept their intended subservient role to Joseph. So you have all of this pain flowing as a result of what's going on here. Hi, Mindy. Good to see you here. So, God is drawing, we know because we read the whole story, God is drawing this family to Egypt for a purpose, for a reason. But they are reluctant to do that. They are reluctant to go where God wants them to go. Jonah doesn't want to go where God wants him to go. And that causes a storm that risks the lives of him and everybody on the boat. It results in Jonah spending 3 days inside a fish. Reluctance, the resistance. Now, sometimes following the will of God is painful. Jesus suffered immensely for doing exactly what God wanted him to do, but in a sense, it's in a compacted amount of time. And there's purpose behind it. Yes, sir.
Well, and again, that was all caused by people not doing God's will. Whether Jesus did, but anyway, Jesus did God's will, but Jesus had to do that because man had failed to follow God's will. And so, there it is.
And that's what comes with the curse of Adam and Eve. When they are cursed, now you will work hard by the sweat of your brow. You will plant and weed your tomato plants, right, Mark? That's how it goes. By the pain in your back, you will get up off your all fours after weeding your tomato plants. But you have to have those tomato plants so Rick can get some tomatoes. So that's what that has to have. And then of course the Eve's curse is greatly will I multiply your pain in childbirth. And if you think about it, if that hadn't happened, what would they put in movies? Because in every movie almost a woman has to give birth and she's in absolute agony the whole time. So that's a big plot device for those folks. But that's the pain. They resisted God's will. They defied God's will, and pain results from it. They had the idyllic setting. We talked about it on Sunday morning. To care for God's creation, they did not have to make their own creation. They didn't have to build their own empire. They didn't have to build stations on the moon so we can eventually build a station on Mars. And they didn't have to do all that. We still are trying to build our own creation, build our own empire. We still do not want to simply keep and bless what God has given us. How much better would we be if we just kept, and if we looked at it instead of saying, we can do whatever we want because God has given dominion over. If we just say, God created all this with a purpose, what is that purpose? If we just lived according to his purpose. Yes, sir? Did the vandal have something to say?
No.
I think you do. You don't like being called a vandal, do you? And really, also the pain is coming from Jacob's unwillingness to let Benjamin serve the role he is being called to serve. It's Benjamin's calling. It's his duty, and we'll see it as this chapter plays out. It is his duty to impact Joseph, to change the way Joseph views his brothers, his father, his family, his world. That's his purpose. Why did Jesus go to the cross? A lot of reasons. One of them, hopefully, is that it changes the way the world views God. And maybe, and I know people won't be comfortable with this sentiment, but hello, Kim. Maybe, in a sense, if it doesn't change how God views humanity, it gives God a little more street cred with humanity, if you will. A God that is above it all. We're down here suffering. God can say, I suffered right along with you. I was right in the midst with it. As opposed to being so aloof, so distant, so transcendent, He is also now imminent. He's right here in the mess with us. The mess we created, he came into it and endured the full spectrum of suffering that humans endure as a result of this. Jacob is not willing to let his son, Benjamin, serve his purpose at this point. He is holding back on that, and that is causing a lot of pain. Sherry and I went out by the airport, and there was a food truck she wanted to hit, so we went out there and got some food the other day, and there was a really nice old restored Chevy pickup, and I went around and looked at it, and it wasn't perfect, but it was a really nice little driver. The bed was perfect, though. He had just put new, I think, maple wood in the bed. I mean, it's so pretty. You never would want to put a TV or a load of garbage to take you wouldn't use that, mess that bed up. If you put some garbage in there or something like that, scuff it up. I'm like, this needs some rhino liner on it. Get it in there and we can do anything. We can throw half open buckets of paint in there, whatever. It doesn't matter. But you couldn't do anything with that bed without messing it up. Well, Benjamin may look strong and handsome and youthful and appealing while he's sitting there. He's not serving any purpose, though. He's just another mouth to feed until you send him to be the gift, in a sense, the sign that Joseph has required. So they're holding on. This pull and now it's kind of reached a breaking point, because now it's really, again, once again, a matter of life and death. They have to act. They can't act when they need to act or when they should act. They're acting when they have to act out of desperation. Judah says, we could have been back twice already. Meanwhile, Simeon's, just sitting in the joint, as a foreigner, in a foreign prison. I don't know how many rights a foreigner had compared to an Egyptian in prison. You not learn usually any better. Joseph got through it okay, but Simeon doesn't seem like the kind to maybe make friends as well as Joseph does. So, and you got to be careful when you make friends in prison, I guess, too. So, verses 11 through 15, and then we'll talk about that and call it a night. Kim loves everyone, and everyone loves Kim. Then their father Israel said to them, if it must be so, then do this. Take some of the best products of the land in your bags and carry down to the man as a present, a little balm, a little honey, aromatic gum and myrrh, pistachio nuts and almonds. Take double the money in your hand and take it back take back in your hand the money that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was a mistake. Take your brother also and arise and return to the man, and may God Almighty grant you compassion in the sight of the man, so that he will release to you your other brother and Benjamin. And as for me, if I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. So the men took this present, and they took double the money in their hand and Benjamin. Then they arose and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. I don't know about you, but if I've got honey, pistachio nuts, and almonds, I'm okay for a while. I mean,
I was thinking, you could let
maybe all the pistachio nuts were just cracked open a little bit, not where you could pop them open easy, and they didn't have a nutcracker. Maybe that was the problem with it. I use my jaw when that's the problem. I just crack them that way. Makes my dentist really happy doing that. So. Yeah, and now it's okay. He's going. We're going to put on the dog. We're going to give him the best of everything we have, because Benjamin, we're sending the best we have, which is Benjamin. So everything around it is going to be much more extravagant. We're going to take ultimately 3 times the amount of money we took the first time. We're going to take double, and then also what you took. So that's 3 times the amount of money they originally sent down to buy grain. And if we're in, we're all in. And that's another point about this in terms of being a part of God's people. If you're in, you're in. And what you hold back is ultimately what will really make you hurt. I mean, when you think about serving God, and when you see things, giving up things of this world, and these ties to the world, we still always will have some ties to the world, won't we? We can't completely and totally divorce ourselves of everything around us. We have wives, husbands, children, grandchildren, parents, friends, and their situation works on us, doesn't it? Their situation, if they're over in Turkey, going to try to marry a girl we've never met before, that's stressful for us to some extent, and all the things around it. That's a tie to the world. If they are, if our parents are ailing and they need our help and they demand our time and our concern, we should honor our father and mother. That's a tie to the world. When Jesus says you should hate all of these things, even your own life, if you're not willing to lose your life, whatever we do not give over completely to God is what hurts us the most as we follow him, as we try to be his child. What we try to hang on, the thing that matters so much to us. If it's our old restored Chevy pickup and we come out and found the neighbor dog has got on it and scratched up the paint, and that truck's worth more than anything else, it's going to be hard to love your neighbor as yourself at that point, huh? Especially as dogs. You might go get the shotgun and a couple of less dogs. Reenact the next last scene in Old Yeller. Whatever ties us to the world is what hurts us the most when we serve God. And we have ties. We grow towards releasing the ties. But we don't get to completely check out from the world. We're not called to turn everything over to God in a way that means we have no responsibility or no mission and no purpose in the world anymore. And if you don't have a sense of love and connection to the people you're called to serve, you won't serve them very well. So what is hurting Jacob the most is the one thing he doesn't want to lose, and that's Benjamin. It's more important to him to keep Benjamin than it is to keep anything else. And that is what, in a sense, God is asking him to give up. And his father was given up by his grandfather. Isaac was given up by Abraham. And he got it back. But if you're not ready to give it up, it's going to really burn a hole in your pocket, whatever you got. It's going to be the painful part of following and serving God. You have something, Mr. Wade? Okay. Hello, Nell. Good to see you. Hello to all her sisters and brothers. Okay. Well, we'll call that good. We'll finish. We'll pick up in verse 16 and try to finish up. I think that's all we'll do next week is just finish up chapter 43, and we'll do that next week. So before we go, young King Cole, will you